Alrighty-o, I think it's time for another book haul. Welcome back to my channel. My name is EmmaAbe. Today we are going to be doing another book haul. This book haul will contain books that I've just kind of accumulated ever since I got to Cincinnati / books that have not really fit into any of the other book hauls that I've done so far here on BookTube. Let's get started. Before we start, we're going to do our obligatory disclaimer. I cannot pronounce things. I have dyslexia. I cannot do it. I cannot decode. It is so difficult for me, so it's not meant to offend anyone if I mispronounce things. It's just inevitable because I cannot do it. So there's your obligatory disclaimer before the start of the real video. The first book is Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. But this book is about the Radium Girls, and when was it published? 2017. The story of the Radium Girls was turned into a play, and recently my high school did that play, which was like there's lots of reasons why I didn't go see it. Anyway, but it's a really, really cool story, and I got this book because I'm participating in the Disability Readathon, and I got this book from the bookstore of my university. Everything in that bookstore is overpriced. Go to a different bookstore. For some reason I thought I didn't close my door. But yeah, that's why I got this, and it's where I got this from, and I'm super excited about this. This does have an audiobook. The Cincinnati Public Library does have that audiobook, so I'm super excited to crack this one open. Okay. So now we're entering the section of books that I got all from the Harriet Beecher Stowe house. Starting off, a little predictably, is I got Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Don't yell at me, I have never read this. At the Harriet Beecher Stowe house, we sell a bunch of different editions of Uncle Tom's Cabin. We sell like 5 different editions, but I chose to get this one because it's nice, like leather bound feel. It's not necessarily too expensive, but it's also not less than $10. And I wanted my money to go to a good cause, so that's why I purchased it from the Harriet Beecher Stowe house, so they can do all of the renovations and improvements that they want. I know kind of a lot about this. I kind of know how it ends. If you don't know, Uncle Tom's Cabin was a freaking phenomenon of its time. It literally was the second most sold book, second to like the Bible. It's translated in all these different languages, which I find so amazing because if you think about it, Uncle Tom's Cabin is a very uniquely American story, and actually Harriet Beecher Stowe originally wrote this targeting specifically white middle-class Presbyterian women. The whole idea behind that was they are the people who will be raising up the next generation, and if she can get those women on the side of abolitionism, then that whole next generation will grow up to be very fierce abolitionists. I would say she failed in that goal because it became a phenomenon and everyone loved the book. Oh my god, Uncle Tom's Cabin was merchandised up the wazoo. It was insane. Anyway, so a bunch of people got really pissed about this book, mainly the Southerners who wanted to keep slavery around. And they're all like, Harriet Beecher Stowe does not know what she is talking about. She actually started receiving a bunch of hate mail to the point where her husband had to start opening her mail. In addition, one asshole sent the ears of his slave to Harriet Beecher Stowe. Literally cut off the slave's ears, and it's gross. Harriet Beecher Stowe rightfully got pissed, and she clapped back with the next book that I'm going to show you guys, which is The Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin, presenting the original facts and documents upon which the story is founded. This is also by Harriet Beecher Stowe. This is her saying, oh, you think that in the book is wrong? Well, guess what? Here it is. This is all of her sources. Look at this. And if you open it, look at all of that. It's dense. It's super dense. I also picked this up from the Harriet Beecher Stowe house. I'm not going to read this until I read Uncle Tom's Cabin because I feel like you kind of need to know the story. Because of this, we know a lot about the writing of Uncle Tom's Cabin, and we can extrapolate a lot of really, really useful information from this, and it's just crazy. This you can also find on Google Books, but I wanted to own my own copy. This does have an audiobook, which is awesome! I love that. Oh, also, Uncle Tom's Cabin also has an audiobook. So, yeah, I'm super excited to have both of these books. The next book I got is, wow, okay, is Harriet Beecher Stowe, A Life by Joan D. Heinrich, and this is a thick biography. This is the, quintessential autobiography of Harriet Beecher Stowe. In fact, for a long time, the Harriet Beecher Stowe house that I work at required all of the docents to read this. They don't anymore, so I didn't have to read it, but I want to better educate myself. I got this from the Harriet Beecher Stowe house. Unfortunately, it has this discard sticker. This doesn't not really have an audiobook, sadly. I'm filming this in the middle of the day. I don't even know if any of my roommates are here. They shouldn't be. The next book is Beyond the River, The Untold Story of the Heroes of the Underground Railroad by Anne Hagedorn. And this tells the story of some of the key points along the Underground Railroad to help escaped slaves get to freedom. One of the points on the route is the Rankin House. I think it's about 40 miles from downtown Cincinnati. I got this from the Harriet Beecher Stowe house here in Cincinnati, which is a location that I volunteer at because part of what I have to do to keep my scholarship is to do 30 hours of volunteering each year, and I chose to do them at the Harriet Beecher Stowe house because I want to fulfill my tiny childhood dreams of being a historian in a museum. The money that is used for buying these books, it goes to the Harriet Beecher Stowe house, which is great because they foster an ongoing continuation, talking about how slavery has a lasting impact in society today, and I think it's a really great place if you're ever in Cincinnati and you have some time to go and you're looking for something to do. I recommend the Harriet Beecher Stowe house because you will be supporting a really awesome community, and they are actually trying to do some renovations right now, and it's really exciting. There's no actual construction work, but they're hoping to do some really, really awesome renovations, and going there and paying for a tour or buying a book would help them immensely. I am not sure if this has an audiobook. Oh wow, I'm really bad. I didn't even look that up. Give me a second. This was actually recommended to me by one of the other docents that I was working with. He was like, yeah, this is really good because if you want to know about the Rankins, because I was like, okay, why is the Rankin House important, and how does that connect to Harriet Beecher Stowe and the Beecher family and their whole reasons for being in Cincinnati? It's an actually really interesting story. If you want me to do a kind of Harriet Beecher Stowe type thing, let me know, and I will do that. I'll make a video. Maybe I'll even show you around the bookstore that we have. Also a very young docent. I haven't been there for that long, really only a couple of months, so I'm not the foremost authority, but if you want to see that, I can do that. This book unfortunately doesn't have an audiobook. Why is that always the case? Not always the case, but more audiobooks need to be a thing. The next book I got was Mightier Than the Sword, Uncle Tom's Cabin and the Battle for America by David S. Reynolds. I got this book at the Harriet Beecher Stowe house, and this just basically tells the price. I was like, what the frick is that? Does my other one have it? Ha, you thought my brain would concentrate for 5 seconds. No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all, 0%. This talks about how writing was so instrumental, in particular Uncle Tom's Cabin, into the ending of slavery, and really a lot of what I've learned from being a docent at Harriet Beecher Stowe house is that writing was so important, maybe not for winning the war, but in terms of getting the war started. All of the talks and the discussions about slavery versus abolitionists, and then within abolitionists you have let them be free, and then you have the colonialist people. Writing was so instrumental in the early 1800s in America to get rid of slavery. I'm very glad I have this book. This one also has an audiobook too. The next book I got was The Road to Dawn, Josiah Henson and the Story That Sparked the Civil War by Jared A. Brock. If you don't know who Josiah Henson, he was the person that Harriet Beecher Stowe based the character of Uncle Tom on. So my feet some rest of time because they're starting to fall asleep again and I'm very upset about it. This basically chronicles his story and how it was so important to Harriet Beecher Stowe and how she wrote the character of Uncle Tom, who was so important. This one also has an audiobook, which is great. I also got this from the Harriet Beecher Stowe house, unsurprisingly. The next book I got is The Raw and the Cooked by Claude Levi-Strauss. This is the Introduction to the Science of Mythology, Volume 1, and this is an anthropology book. Of course we got anthropology books. Who do you think we're kidding? I actually picked this up at a local used bookstore that's literally right around the corner from my apartment. I cannot pronounce the name of the book because it's like Du Pfeffers or something, and I think it's German, and goodness knows I cannot do that. The reason I picked this up is because I believe one of my anthropology professors recommended that I get this book and read this book because it talks a lot about mythology, how mythologies interconnect, and all of this really fun stuff. Also, Claude Levi-Strauss is a very famous anthropologist, and I'm very excited to get anthropology books written by famous anthropologists, so I'm super excited. They did have the other volumes at this bookstore, but it was more money than I was willing to pay at that moment. This doesn't have an audiobook, unfortunately. Why is that a trend with anthropology books? It's so frustrating, but yeah, I'm really interested to see what this has to say about religion. I'm also taking an anthropology of religion class. So excited. You could probably go look in my notes because whenever I'm in a class and hey, professor's like, you should read this book, I write that book or write the author in the margin. Pretty sure if you looked at my Native American notebook, you could see this book in the margin. It might even be in my anthropology of religion, but I don't think so. Because then once I put it in the margin, I put it in a list of books that I want to buy / read that I have going on Google Docs. It's ever growing. This is a problem. The next book I got is The Neanderthals of Skeletons, Scientists, and Scandal. I feel like it should say the story of. Whatever, it's fine. This is by Kirk Turnhoustis and Pat Shipman. This talks about the discovery of Neanderthals and all of the stuff that went into determining, are these an ancestor, or is it an offshoot, like what exactly are these people? And I love learning about our ancestors, and I'm so excited to crack this book open. This does not have an audiobook, sadly. Frustration. And I also got this at that Du Pfeffers I'm gonna pronounce it like 10 different times in this video bookstore that's right around the corner, and I'm super excited, and it's in really good condition. I think it'll be fun. I love reading about just the nitty-gritty like evolutionary science stuff in that, because I don't know why, but I find it so much fun. The next book I got is The Wisdom of the Bones in Search of Humans' Origins by Alan Wanker and Pat Shipman. I also have another book, Neanderthals, is also by Pat Shipman. This talks about Homo erectus, which is another one of our human ancestors, and the whole process figuring out what this is and how it connects to us Homo sapiens. I love learning about our ancestors. I love it. I'm very excited. This doesn't have an audiobook. And I also got this at the Dauphin Fenter's used bookstore. I feel like the way I pronounce it is just devolving. So I'm super excited. I literally bought this book today. I literally went there today at the time of filming of this video and bought, I don't know, like what, 7 books? I think it was 7 books. We're gonna say it was, wait, I can count. 6 books. I was close. And I spent less than $10 on each book, so I love it when it's a deal. Plus this is a hardback, and I really like hardback books. Oh my god, I can talk today. So the next book that I got is The Son of the Revolution by Liang Ping and Judith Shapiro. So the story about a boy growing up in the Cultural Revolution in China. I'm so excited to read this book. Why I bought this book is because I haven't talked about it much on my channel, but I had the awesome opportunity to live in China for 4 months. That was a really life-altering and transforming thing for me. It changed what I want to do and kind of the trajectory of what I want to do. I want to learn more about China because I went in there, I knew more things than the other people I went to China with, but I still want to know more. Actually, this place is in Beijing, and I actually got to go there, which is really, really cool. So I have like a picture of like this temple. I forget the exact name of the temple. I'll put it on the screen when I figure it out. But yeah, it's really cool. It's very, very beautiful. Oh my god. Anyway, it's a whole like temples and gardens and palaces. They're so beautiful in China. If you're ever in China, like, which I highly encourage you to go. It's not that expensive. The most money you'll spend is on the plane ticket to get there. Remember that, that's your biggest ticket item. I am itching to go back, partially because I miss my friends. But anyway, really excited about this book. Not sure if I mentioned that this doesn't have an audiobook. Sad. The next book that I picked up is Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs? Big Questions from Tiny Mortals About Death by Caitlin Doughty. This book basically is a amalgamation of different questions that small children have asked Caitlin Doughty about death. I really like Caitlin Doughty. She is a mortician and she has a channel here on YouTube. I've talked about it before when I got her other book. I really like her stuff and I like how she talks about death, and it has opened my eyes to death culture here in America and in other peoples and how the different options you have. And I think this will be just like a fun, casual gallivant into weird questions about death that you may have had. Now is your time to answer them. There is a review that abookolive did on this book, and I will link that in the description so you can get more of an idea of her thoughts on it. Why I got this was I was watching some of Caitlin Doughty's videos, and then she made an announcement. This one was available for pre-order. She said that if you pre-order it by this date, then you will get a signed copy, so that's awesome. I'm so glad I have that. Love signed copies, and a little pin, which is over on my desk over there. I don't want to go grab it. And I pre-ordered it and I had it delivered to my family home because it was going to come out on September 10th. And at that moment, I didn't really have everything with the lease where I'm living now. I had it sent to my parents' house and I like hounded my parents about getting it. Took me longer than like September 10th to get this book because I'm not at my parents' house. I'm never really in my hometown really for much time at all, but my mom drove down to Cincinnati and surprised me because we had relatives coming in from Germany and she brought this book, which was awesome. I'm so happy that she did that. So now I have it and now I can make a video all about it and talk about it. And plus the cover's red and I love red because it's my favorite color. The next book I got is called Wild Swans, 3 Daughters of China by Zhong Cheng. And this basically tells this multi-generational story of the author, Zhong Cheng. My pronunciation is already terrible, and then you make me try and pronounce Chinese names, and it's just like, so much more difficult. It's improving. I'm starting to understand the sound system, and it's way less weirder than English is. English has a really weird sound system, and the letters you think should make certain sounds don't make those sounds, and it's frustrating. These Chinese doesn't do that to you. You see a letter, you know what sound it's gonna make? It's gonna make that sound. Anyway, but this basically tells the story of the author and her mother and her grandmother who went through 3 very different times in Chinese history. Oh my god, it has a family tree. I love family trees. They're so helpful. It starts in the 30s, so it's basically kind of going from the end. I could get this wrong. My Chinese history is not up to snuff, but like the end of Imperial China all the way transitioning through Communist China into today. So it's I'm so excited, and this does have an audiobook. I'm really excited. I have not checked to see if the Cincinnati Public Library has it, but it's on Audible, so maybe I'll use one of my credits for that. All right. So the next book I want to talk about is is a thick one. And that is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I'm so excited I got this book. So I got this book because I got the audiobook which I talked about in one of my earlier videos in the library books sale haul. It's translated by the same person, so there should be no issue with the words matching up, which I've had that issue before in books that are translated into English, and it is the most annoying thing to have a audiobook translated by a different person and then the actual book translated by a completely different person and none of the words match up, and it's so aggravating. I'm super excited about this. I'm not sure when I'm going to read this, but I actually got this from a Barnes & Noble in Baltimore because when I was living in DC, my mom came and visited me because she had a conference that she had to do in Rhode Island, so she just swung down to DC to visit me, and while she was visiting me, we drove up to Baltimore to go visit our relatives there. And that was super fun, and while we were there, we popped into a Barnes & Noble, which was a really cool Barnes & Noble. It was one of the most creative, cool Barnes & Nobles that I've ever seen. If I can find the location of that, I will put it in the description below. This does have an audiobook. I do own the audiobook for a steal price, less than $5. I'm super excited about that. I personally think that this next book that I picked up might seem like it kind of came out of left field for you guys, because I've never really talked about these types of books before, and that is Decoding Egyptian Hieroglyphics, How to Read the Secret Language of the Pharaohs by Bridget McDermott. I went through this phase time in my life where I was really interested in Egypt and ancient Egypt, and I think it'd be really cool to be able to learn more about how to read the actual hieroglyphics, which were not the base writing system. Most people, I think, spoke and wrote Coptic. So ancient hieroglyphs were really only preserved for like the elite. You know, you weren't a farmer writing or reading ancient hieroglyphs, which I think is a common misconception in history classes because we don't go too much into the intricacies of ancient Egypt. There's the pictures and they're pretty. This was nice, and this does not have an audiobook. I didn't even really look. I kind of just assumed. So take that with a pinch of salt. Maybe it does, but highly doubt it. Oh, I got this from the Dufeffers books. This is the last book that I got there. Ancient Egypt is interesting. The next book I got is Genesis, The Deep Origin of Societies by Edward O. Wilson. This won the Pulitzer Prize, which is super cool. Also, this one is going to talk a lot about evolution and looking at evolution and of other animals, non-human animals, and seeing what we can learn about society in general from the evolution of these other animals. I got this from my university bookstore. This does have an audiobook. I'm super excited to read this. It's a short little thing. I really like science books. I really love science books that have to do with biology and evolution. The next book I got is They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. This is a graphic novel, which I'm super excited about. I feel like I need to grow my graphic novel collection because it's just not big enough, and I love nonfiction graphic novels. They're so good. There's another one that I've been eyeing about Che Guevara. Also, I just love George Takei. He is one of my favorite humans. If you don't know who he is, you probably know him from Star Trek. He played Sulu in Star Trek the original series. He has just become this wonderful person on the internet. If you do not follow his Facebook, I do not know what you are doing. It is so entertaining. I love it, and it's so much fun. I think he is transformed to be this wonderful activist in the TV show Heroes. He plays Hiro Nakamura's father. There's this wonderful scene in it where Hiro sees his father and he's like, "Dosa?" And I'm like, that's how I learned the word father in Japanese. When he was little, was put to the Japanese internment camps in America. Always been interested in that area of his life. There's a graphic novel all about it, so I figured I'd pick this up because it's so interesting and I get to learn more about George Takei. This does not have an audiobook. I got this from my university bookstore. Sorry for the change of hair and change of clothes. I just really wanted to show you guys this book, and I didn't feel like it would be applicable to put it into a different book haul. Plus, I don't really know when my next book haul is going to happen. The next book I want to show you is not really a technical book, but I still really wanted to show you it, and that is The Come From Away souvenir program, and oh my god, I literally just got back from seeing the show here in Cincinnati, and if you don't know, I love this show. I fell in love with the music when I was in China. If you guys want me to talk more about my musical theater stuff, I was so happy. I was so scared when I went to see the show that I would be a little bit disappointed because I knew the show like front and back. I cried. I was watching the first number and I held my hand to my heart and I was like, I'm actually here. I'm seeing this. I've wanted to see this musical for over a year. I'm so glad I have this as a memento. If you guys haven't watched any of my other haul videos, you know that I like to get these souvenir programs when I see shows because it's another way to support the show and to hopefully keep it running a little bit longer. I also got a magnet too, which I've added to my personal magnet collection. If you want to see that, let me know and I will make a whole video showing you guys my magnets. They were selling another book at the store called Channel of Peace by one of the real people who experienced this whole event that happened. I thought about buying it, but it was also like $30 and I looked it up on Amazon. You can find it for like $12. Not that I don't want to support the show, but I felt like that's a lot of money to be shelling out back to the regularly scheduled content. And there you go. There are all the books that I've gotten recently. Do the usual booktuber things that you're supposed to do, like liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. Tell me which one you think is interesting. Is there one that you want me to read next? Thank you so much, weirdos, for listening to me ramble, because that's what I feel like most of my videos are. No idea what I'm doing right now. Why does it sound like someone's here? I don't like the Rippenhouse. Is that how you pronounce it? No, it's it's in Ripley. Books are just falling everywhere. Get up there. This braid is all like fucked up. I don't know how it got fucked up. Oh my god, so many sources. Damn.